you. But thank you. This big speech. Well, I started Rolling Stone in 1967 when I was 21. I was a well hopped up rock and roll fanatic in San Francisco. And when I was a little kid, I remember laying under my blankets at night and listening to a little crystal radio set, hearing Heartbreak Hotel, and a particular favorite was Buddy Holly, Party Doll, Come Along With Me When I'm Feeling Wild. And I can remember the day in the store in Marin County where I bought my first record, which was Rock Around the Clock. But it was the Beatles who changed my world. And after a hard day's night, nothing was ever the same. To have that much fun and to feel so free, well, the doors of perception had opened for me, and I now understood where I wanted to be going. In college, I met Ralph Gleason. He took me under his wing. He took me into his home. But the academic life couldn't really compete with the discovery of pot and psychedelics and going to Bill Graham family dog dance concerts every weekend and seeing the Airplane and the Dead and Otis Redding and Butterfield and Janis and Muddy Waters and Wilson Pickett and Quicksilver at $2 admission. And every month a new record would come out. Bring It All Back Home, or Rubber Soul, or the first Birds album, or Out of Our Heads, and then Highway 61. And those were the major events in my life, and that was the end of college for me. Now, I would have loved to have been a guitarist, and I was in a band, and for the record, it was called The Helping Handout. But I felt more at ease writing journalism, and I was not certain as to why, but I just seemed to be comfortable there. In high school, I started a student newspaper called The Sardine, and whose motto was all the news that fits. And the most popular feature in it was a column I wrote called Random Notes. In any case, my thank yous begin with Jann Wenner. Jane helped me start Rolling Stone, and she was my partner in solace, and she kept me from getting too crazy, and she had just exactly the right judgment at the most important times. My co-founder was Ralph Gleason, and he was the gray-haired wise man. And Ralph was once quoted as saying, "The proof of how good an idea Rolling Stone is it survived Jann's business management of it." My earliest supporters in the record business were Jack Holzman, Clive Davis, and Gil Friesen. They all saw what was going on at Rolling Stone, and more clearly, I think, than I did, and they saw how important Rolling Stone could be. The three of them each stepped up to the plate with a loan in the early days when it looked like we might be going out of business. And then Gil distributed Rolling Stone to record stores via A&M Records, and he decided he would also be a guiding hand and a friend for life, and is still that. John Landau reviewed records in issue 1. He was then, as now, one of the most knowledgeable, wise, smart, articulate guys in rock and roll, and he was a soulmate. And I have files of single-space letters and long-distance phone bills to prove all that. And John and Ralph set the bar for the critics and the editors who came up through Rolling Stone. They're John Perellis, Ben Fong-Torres, Jim Henke, Kurt Loder, Joe Levy, Greil Marcus, David Frick, Anthony DeCurtis, Lenny Kaye, Jonathan Cott, Dave Marsh, Jim White, to name a few. We thrived on talent and taking risks. For years, Rolling Stone was defined by Hunter Thompson and his gonzo epics, his masterful writing, his taste for intoxicants. He was my Keith Richards. Tom Wolfe was the star before I came along, and we've been his literary home for 30 years now, and he wrote The Right Stuff and Bonfire the Band, and he's both for Rolling Stone. Thank you. And then Cameron Crowe was the only person who was younger than me when he started working there. And it is true we did have to get both his mother and his father's permission to send him out on the road with Led Zeppelin. He had not graduated from high school yet. He was a kid who could write and report better than most of all the big guys. And Almost Famous is what it was like, and it's one of the greatest love letters to rock and roll ever written, and he made us all really proud. And thank you for 25 years at my side to Mary McDonald for being my nice guy. And to Kent Brownridge for being my tough guy. And Ben Needell for being a trustee. My mother and father, thank you for the startup money and the genes. My mom had the editing gene. And also for putting up with a very serious problem child. Jane, thank you again for our 3 sons, Alex, Theo, and Gus. Alex is the expert on heavy metal. Theo knows classic rock backwards and forwards, and Gus plays the guitar just like ringing a bell. And I love you, boys. And to Matt, my partner in love and life for the last 10 years, I'm so happy you found me. Early on, Rolling Stone became an outlet for John Lennon and Yoko Ono when they began their peace crusade. They gave us the 2 Virgin photos for the cover of our first anniversary issue, numerous interviews, including Lennon Remembers, and they conferred upon us the benefits of their fame and their legitimacy. It was a tragedy that staggered us all when John died. Yoko's support, though, continued over the years. I'm a godfather to her son. She's a godfather, one of mine. And war is over if you want it. The first musician to ever visit Rolling Stone when we were in a loft over a printing plant in '68 was Stevie Winwood. And I remember Pete Towns was a frequent visitor to San Francisco then, and he became a really good friend in those years. And I am really glad to share this stage tonight also with my comrade in arms, Jackson Browne. Music was the voice of the baby boom, the biggest, the best educated, the most affluent generation in human history. And as the world around us became increasingly dangerous and we went out on our own with no direction home, rock and roll music got a real sense of urgency. Bob Dylan is the voice of my America. To be alive during his lifetime, when he has held the stage, has made us all special, and I've tried to be his greatest champion. Last summer, Bob came down to my house for a visit, and he ended up playing guitar with my youngest son, showing him the ins and outs of how to play Hurricane, and trying to turn him on to Charlie Christian. And there just could have been no better award than that moment. Bob's vision of America was woven into his mighty fabric by the artists to whom Rolling Stone gave to support and space over many, many years. And Don Henley, and John Mellencamp, and Robbie Robertson, Paul Simon and Artie Garfunkel, Bono, Pete Wolf, Jackson Browne, and Bruce Springsteen. And most of them are here tonight. And their work is what the magazine stands for, and they're the people with whom I became friends and became an adult. And to the 2 most elegant men in the room, Ahmet Ertegun and Mick Jagger. Thank you for bringing me to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I am honored by the both of you. Ahmet, you are a national treasure, and you and Mika have been family to me and mine. And one of the greatest privileges of my life was to serve under you and see out your vision of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you've done so much for me. Thank you.
I would like to say that when Mick and I were young kids, you were our hero. But I'm afraid I can't pull that one off today.
I go the alternate version there on you. Sir Mick Jagger, how cool it is to be inducted by you. First, I want to thank you, Mick and Muddy and Bob Dylan, for the name. I worship the Rolling Stones. You and Keith still have the world's greatest rock and roll band. I always set my compass to you, Mick, for sensibility, and taste and how to guide Rolling Stone by how you conducted yourself as an artist and a driving force, and how you held it all together with such intelligence and integrity. And I have been in awe of you, and I still am. And it has been a pleasure to be your friend for all these years, and your coming here tonight means the world to me. Thank you. So I wanted to tell the world about rock and roll, and I wanted to tell the stories of musicians, and I wanted to have a place for them to speak to other musicians and their audience. And I've tried to stand for quality and integrity and reflect the values of music, and I wanted to be the voice for the artists. And I believe so deeply in music, all kinds of music, and I believe it can soothe, and it can heal, and it can uplift, and it can transcend, and it can shake the walls of the city itself. Rock and roll has been giving us the truth about America, and we have the responsibility of doing something about it and having our voice heard in deciding where this country is going, more than ever. Rolling Stone was founded on that idea. It still believes it, and it will do so for as long as I live. And this has been one of the greatest evenings of my life, and thank you, everyone.